Hey guys, this is John from US Dash Camera. Today I got a review on the upgrade to my personal favorite Viofo dash camera, the A139. This is the Pro version with 3 channels, and this one does have real 4K in the front with 1080p in the interior and rear camera. So let's get started. As usual guys, I will provide links down in the description to where you can purchase this. They are affiliate links that do help support my channel. As of recording, this camera is only available on viofo.com, so I'll provide a link there, and I should have a coupon code listed below to save a little bit on that purchase. Once it's available on Amazon and Blackboxmycar, I will also add links to those stores if you'd prefer to purchase from there. So guys, Viofo did send this review unit out to me, so I'd like to thank them for sending a unit out for me to review. As I said, the A139 was actually my favorite Viofo camera for several reasons. Now I'll provide a link down in the description to my original review if you'd like to check it out, because this is sort of just a upgraded model. It's not like a whole new model in my opinion, and I want to cover why I liked the original so much and what kind of improvements they had on this one. Now one thing you'll notice, unlike the popular A119, A129, A229, I believe there's one model now, this one has no screen. Majority of the Viofo dash cameras have had screens, and I really like this one since it doesn't have a screen. So you will be depending on the smartphone app, but this is exactly like the original A139. It looks exactly the same, other than, of course, it says 4K here. We got a power button, a record button if you would like to pause your recordings for whatever reason. This is a emergency lock button. This will lock the current video so it won't get erased. We have a microphone button that can mute the audio if you don't want that. And we have a Wi-Fi button. You can have it set so Wi-Fi automatically turns on and then turns off after a while, or you can set it so you hold this to turn Wi-Fi on. And there is an optional Bluetooth button. Now I didn't test it with this one, I have tested it in the past. It's pretty universal with most Viofo cameras, but I wanted to remind people that is an option. It doesn't come with it, but you can buy it separately. Along the top we have an audio video out, microphone input. There is an optional microphone that could be useful if you want to have a mic closer to your body or near your driver's side window, but I think the audio on this camera is decent enough already.
Recording. 3 channels started. Wi-Fi enabled.
I didn't really find a need to use it. Here we got the rear input and the interior input, and then the power input, which is USB-C. I really like that it's USB-C. Now one of the reasons I really liked this camera over the other Viofo 2 or 3 channel cameras is that they used USB inputs, and the cables were very thick. These are coaxial cables and they're really thin, which makes it really easy to install. On the side here you can see the micro SD card port. Supports up to 256 gigabytes. Now there's a little screw hole here, and that's actually for a little security device you can place over the plugs, so it makes it a little more tamper proof, but I didn't have that to test. It is nice that they offer that feature. That was on the existing or the original A139 also. Here we got a CPL, a circular polarizing lens. This helps reduce glare in your windshield, so it can really improve the picture during the day. Now it does reduce the picture darkness slightly, but I don't think it makes a big enough difference. I just leave it on all the time, even at night. And you can see this is on a swivel. This is the interior camera. You can see it has some IR lights. That is how you're going to be able to see inside of your car even when it's completely dark. And again, there's that little tiny coaxial input. And you can see the rear camera looks pretty similar, except without the IR lenses. Now another optional accessory is the hard wiring kit. I highly recommend this. To take advantage of the parking mode, you're going to need to use this, and what's nice about these hard wiring kits is you can set the low voltage that it should cut off at. So if you, for example, if you set it at 12.2 volts, if your battery's getting low, it'll cut power to your camera, and it's not going to leave you with a dead battery. Now, I'm not going to get into hard wiring. I'll provide a link down in the description to the Blackboxmycar guide on hard wiring. It's a very good resource, and it could be its own video, so I'm going to skip over that. Now, one thing I got incorrect in the original video was that I said that it didn't have buffered parking mode. Now what that means is when it switches to parking mode, with buffered parking mode, if it detects motion or an impact, it'll actually save 15 seconds prior. And that's really important because you want to actually see the impact or see someone approaching your car. A lot of cheaper cameras would start recording as soon as they detect that trigger, but sometimes they were slow, so they might start recording several seconds after, and then it might miss the important footage. So that's why buffered parking is so important. So I really like that this model still has the buffered parking mode. Now there's also a low bitrate mode. Now if you park outside where there's a lot of motion, that automatic buffered parking mode might be recording non-stop, and it can pretty much fill up your memory card depending on the size. So the low bitrate mode is nice because it'll basically just record all the time in a lower bitrate. The video quality might look slightly worse, but when your car is parked still, that's not too important. That's not as important as when you're driving at high speed. So that could be useful for people that park in areas that are just getting triggered constantly by the motion or impacts. Now the one major drawback that I think some people aren't going to like is when this is in the 3-channel mode, you're getting 4K, 1080p, 1080p, but they're actually all only 24 frames per second. Now, typically 30 frames per second is the standard, and a lot of people prefer 60 frames per second. Some people would even prefer a lower resolution with 60 frames per second instead of a higher resolution with 30 frames per second. Now, that's up for debate. But I think the fact that in 3-channel mode that you're only getting 24 frames per second on all 3 channels is going to be a deal breaker for some people. Now, one thing I also noticed when I'm in the app, you can't just turn off the interior camera. I really wish you had the option to just turn it off, or maybe if there was a button or something on here, but there's no way to do that easily other than just unplugging the interior camera. What I would like to be able to do is typically drive in 2-channel mode with the front and rear, and then when I want to record the interior, hit a button and turn it on. That would be useful because when you're in 2-channel mode, you do get 4K 1080p at 30 frames per second on both channels. So that's why I wish you could switch easily between them. Now in the app, when I unplugged the interior camera, you can actually see that now I have a choice for different resolutions or frame rates. So that seems a little odd to me that when I have all 3 plugged in that you don't even get that menu option. That being said, the 24 frames per second didn't seem to be as big of a deal as I thought. It does look noticeably choppier. I feel like most people are going to tell the difference if they're comparing. A lot of people might not even notice if they're not really videophiles or they don't pay attention that closely. But I think it is worth noting because when people want to be able to capture a license plate while driving on the freeway or something, higher frame rate can help quite a bit. But on the flip side, with this 4K, you are getting pretty decent quality 4K, even though the frame rate's lower. One could argue you're going to capture the license plate because of how high resolution it is, especially with the high bitrate they use. Now getting into the app a bit, one of the things I've really liked about Viofo is they really just put a lot of options in their cameras. The fact that you can mirror or rotate any of the cameras, the way you can turn off the audio alerts if you don't want them, just the customization is pretty great on Viofo cameras, and that's no different with this model. So I really like that. And of course, when you're in the app, that's where you can view a live feed and set your camera's positions or the viewing angles. And of course you can view the recorded files, and of course you can download them to your phone. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I prefer dash cameras like this without a screen. I'd rather have it very minimalist and then just let me access the files from my phone. That's what I prefer. So guys, overall, I think this is a great camera. If you already have the original A139 and you drive with 3 channels all the time, I don't know if it's worth upgrading. The original one was still such a great camera. Now, if you are looking for a camera like this that can record inside, maybe you're an Uber driver, it's a decent option, of course, but what I would personally do for me is I would unplug the rear camera most of the time and then just plug it in when I'm Ubering or when I really need that interior camera. I would rather have 4K in the front and 1080p in the rear at all times, and then once in a while switch to 3 channel. That 24 frames per second is a bit of a sacrifice. If you really need 3 channels, then it's a cool option to have. So guys, overall, I think this is a great camera. Other than that sacrifice of frame rate, if you can live with that, I think this is one of the best cameras out there. If you can't live with 24 frames per second, I still think the original A139 is an excellent camera to consider if you're okay with the 1440p but still get 30 frames per second. Again, I'll provide links down in the description to where you can purchase this. They are affiliate links that do help support my work on this channel. If you liked this video or any of my other videos, I'd appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. And as usual, drive safe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.